Hello, and welcome to Thursday's Talking Points Ask Me Anything. I'm Paige Delosier, and I am Engagement Manager for Talking Points. So whether this is your first time joining us or you've been with us several times before, I'm glad that you're here with us. And we're going to have a great time today talking about family engagement, talking about the Talking Points app, and any questions that you may have about family engagement or your Talking Points account. So I'm here to answer those questions. My teammate Jocelyn is also in the chat. So if you do have questions, throw them in there. She can answer them, or we can answer them during our FAQ after our discussion. So very excited that you're here with us today. We are actually on the fourth part of, thank you for joining us, of our four-part series on universal family engagement. So even if this is your first time joining us, you're joining at a great time, because we're talking about enduring universal family engagement. So we've talked about the 4 pillars of universal family engagement. That is purpose. My mind is going blank, but the 4 pillars are purposeful family engagement, responsive family engagement, inclusive family engagement, and then today we're doing enduring family engagement. So even if this is your first one, there's not a particular order they have to go in. So you can always go back and watch the first 3 later on. They're on our YouTube page, they're on our Facebook page, and you can always join us live for future engagement sessions anytime that you want to on a Thursday. So I'm happy that you're here with us this time. We're going to talk about the 4th pillar, enduring. So very, very happy to see you. I do see Jocelyn put the link to those YouTube videos in the chat so that you can save those and go watch them another time. So I'm going to jump into sharing my screen. We don't want to waste any time because we don't want to miss our FAQ time if you did bring questions. So first, for anybody who is joining us for the first time, or anybody who did want to learn more about universal family engagement, we want to make sure that we are defining those terms, make sure that those of us who haven't heard, we've all heard family engagement before, right? But we've maybe not heard the term UFE, universal family engagement, before. So I want to make sure that we're not skimming over that or using something that's unfamiliar. So universal family engagement is a term that Talking Points is using because we don't just want to have family engagement be a box that we check off or an announcement that we send out and not actually engaging and partnering with families. So, and not partnering with all families. So this is the definition that we're using to define universal family engagement as a strategy to meet our goals as a district, as a school, as a teacher, not as a goal itself. So the practice of improving outcomes for all students. We want to think of all students that we have by fostering effective partnerships with families, regardless of barriers or circumstances. So there's three really important parts to that definition. It's for all students. We're not just reaching out to, we're not just connecting with the students who are there every day, who are easy to communicate with their parents, who, you know what I'm saying. And then the second most important part is that it's by partnering with families effectively. So family engagement doesn't just mean sending out flyers. It doesn't just mean making those big announcements. It means a partnership, and those partnerships are defined by these four pillars that we've been going over. So I'll tell you what the four are today, and we're gonna go over the fourth one. And then the third part is regardless of barriers or circumstances. So if you've been with Talking Points for a while, you know what barriers we're talking about. And if you have been a teacher for any amount of time, you know what barriers these are because you face them all the time. Barriers that get in the way, like language barriers, like technology barriers, like access to technology, access to housing, access to anything that is a barrier to that family being able to connect with you, being able to give their child what they need in order to succeed at school. Empty seats, low attendance could be a barrier. Any of those things are barriers or circumstances that might be out of your control. But when we partner with families effectively, when we are using these four pillars of universal family engagement, which seem really big, but there are small strategies that we can use to effectively engage them, then those things start to be positively affected. And we have the research to back it up. I'm going to check the comments real quick. Awesome. Okay, so one more slide or a couple of more slides before I get to the examples from teachers. So we have the four pillars, of which today we are on the fourth. The first one is that universal engagement must be purposeful. It must always focus intentionally on improving student outcomes. We know what our goals are for our students, and we've got to keep those in mind, especially when interacting with families. We've got to be inclusive, like I said, is about all students, equitable access for them and their families. We've got to be responsive. The family engagement has to be responsive, adapting and evolving to best practices and community needs as your school community changes. I know that some teachers have been in the game for 30 years. Some teachers have just come into teaching, and even just in the past few years, it's changed so rapidly. If you've been teaching for a long time, you've probably seen teaching evolve gradually and then rapidly over the past few years. But as research comes in, as communities start to evolve from different communities moving into different areas and you needing to be able to communicate with different families, all of the things that change about your community, all of the research that comes in, we need to always be learning. All of this comes into the responsive aspect. And then today we're going to talk about enduring family engagement. So that is talking about deepening trust, strengthening culture over time so that families know that the educators at their students' school are adults who they can trust, who they can come to, and that the school culture is one that they fit into. It's not one that they are coming into and have to be wary of. So before we look at some of the specific examples of enduring family engagement, just showing you the Talking Points platform, which many of you already use on the web and on the mobile app. So it's student-centered, which goes along with our, what is the first one? I don't know why these words keep escaping me. Purposeful. I say it every single week. Student-centered. It's purposeful. It is built to be focused around students, regardless of which family contact you are communicating with. It's centered around the student. Wrap around supports for students by fostering meaningful partnerships. Universally designed, meaning it is designed to facilitate equitable, accessible engagement, empowering both you and families, regardless of who is using it. We have expert guidance, so we have support teams ready to help you if you run into something that's difficult on the app. And then we also have best practice blog posts that you can read that we send out to you, as well as resources. And you've got our AMAs every Thursday, so you can ask questions. We want this to be a guided experience. We want to always be learning. That's one of our values as an organization. We are always learning, always taking in the research. And that takes me to the last one. It's research based. We have our own in-house research team that is constantly learning what the next best practice is. We're also pulling in research from other organizations, other places that we can build into the platform so that we are always giving you the most up-to-date, best resources. So let's look at how some educators across the country are already showing examples of enduring family engagement, building trust, building a positive culture. I think this is the longest one, so I'm not going to throw this many words at you every single time, and I'm not going to make you read it. But I only pull these when they are like incredible, and I think that they're very meaningful. So this is a first year, or not a first year teacher, but this is her first year at this school. This is Jennifer Lee at Menomonee Area School District. I hope I said that correctly. And she had several staff tell her that certain families never come to parent-teacher conferences. We know how that is. And they were just saying that's a fact. You have to deal with it. But when she started using Talking Points, she scheduled 41 out of 43 conferences with her families and had the highest percentage attend conferences for her EL families ever, 92% attendance. That kudos goes to Jennifer for sure, because not only did she have the tool, the solution, but her messaging must have been incredibly asset-based, incredibly positive for them to trust her, want to meet with her. She must have built those relationships ahead of time. So kudos to Jennifer. She had families whose first language was Hmong and Spanish, and the Hmong paraeducator says that the translation is excellent. And what I wanted to read at the bottom, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I love the trust that this app builds and the ability to make families feel that they are an important part of our school community. That's the part that shows enduring family engagement. So enduring, the word itself means like long lasting. And when she mentions that trust that's being built, the ability to make families feel that they are an important part of the school community, that's what it is. They feel like she, Miss Lee, is a person they can come to, whether it's just for this school year or it's beyond that school year. When they leave her class and go to another classroom, they can still come to her because she was able to communicate with them in their language. She was able to reach out to them in this informal way that they felt comfortable speaking to them. Maybe with her doing this and showing such success with it, that more educators in her building, in her district, will be using this platform or this solution that other families and this family will be able to connect with an enduring, a long-lasting trust, because they see consistency. So that's what we are referring to when we talk about enduring family engagement, that there is a consistent, a streamlined communication, a long-lasting system. So awesome. The chat is popping off. This one, I was very excited to see this one. We actually have a little screenshot from this one. This is from Michelle Perona in Cherokee County School District. I want to say, let's see. I want to say this one's in Georgia. She said, I love this app. I use it all day, every day. Even our school nurse will use my phone to communicate to parents if their child is in the clinic. I can inform parents of upcoming events and even let them know if they are missing any assignments. This app really improves my relationships with all EL parents. And reminder, this is not just an app for EL parents or EL teachers. Their school nurse is using it. It's not just an app for teachers. Administrators can use it. School nurses can use it. We've got bus drivers using it to communicate, hey, running 5 minutes late. Don't panic when your kid's not there at, 3:05 or whatever time it is. And the message that she sent to the family was, hello, this is Nurse Amber. There's a piece of Mariana's tooth that has fallen out. It looks like there is a large cavity which caused the tooth to fall apart. It does not hurt. I would recommend calling the dentist to make an appointment. Now, the reason I pulled that message is because, well, she shared it with us and said how much it improves the relationships with the parents. But that one stood out to me as enduring family engagement because it only took a moment to send that message. And she could have just said, Mariana's tooth fell out. I'm sending it home. But because of the time she took to say what she saw about it and that she recommends calling the dentist and going, is because that's building a relationship. That's saying like, hey, I care about your kid. This is something I noticed. And here's what I think you might want to do about it. And that family member, I cut it off because it just needed to fit on the slide, but she just said, okay, thank you. But what do you want to bet that family member feels like she can trust her to take care of her kid, just even that much more now, and that she can ask her questions about her kid's safety, her kid's health, her kid's academics, most certainly, because that's her teacher and she knows she cares about her. And the teacher said, Miss Perona said, it improves my relationships with all my parents. So she cares what those relationships are, and those relationships are going to endure because she's working hard to build them. And you can tell by the way that she crafts her messages. And then the third example is from Montgomery County Public Schools. I believe that's in Maryland. Regina Rodriguez. It's a short one. This one is that we had a recent student death at our school. I was able to reach out to parents and to students via text to check in on them and receive updates. When the student was in distress, I was able to speak to his mother back and forth, and she only spoke Spanish. This one I pulled because it was very, very meaningful. This is obviously something that no educator, I believe Regina Rodriguez is an administrator, and I want to send kudos to her for this because this is something that no educator ever wants to have happen. Obviously, they never want to console a family for a death. They never want to have to console every single other family for the children dealing with the death of their friend. But the longer you teach, the longer you serve students and families, the more likely it is going to happen. And the fact that she was able to not only check in on them after the fact, all the students, but she was able to check in on them regardless of what language they spoke and regardless, and not just while they were in school, but check in with the families, make sure the kids were okay while they were at home and in their own language, a little bit informally, like, hey, how are they doing? And know when a child was distressed and make that connection. That's very meaningful. And I know that those families likely felt very supported in a very tough time because that's not something a family expects to deal with either. And they probably don't expect an administrator to reach out that way. So that is most certainly a great example of enduring family engagement. They will remember that. They will definitely hold that close to them. And that's an administrator they're going to trust. That's an educator they're going to trust. So So those are some examples of enduring family engagement, and there are probably so many more, but I will not pull them for today. And we can move on to our FA. Let me remove those from there. I see several people in our chat. I see lots of questions. So I know a lot of those examples had to do with translation. So it looks like we've got some questions about translation. Are messages translated instantly, or will I have to wait 1 to 2 days for my messages to arrive to families? Once students contact, okay, so yes, messages are translated pretty instantly. When you, uh, okay, there's two different, I've got to back up a little bit. So there's two different kinds of accounts. If you have, if you are on a free account that you signed up for yourself, then you have put your students in yourself and you assigned them their language. If your school or district set up your account for you and added your students and families, then they put in the language. As soon as the language is assigned, you don't have to touch language again unless someone wants to change it. And then once they're assigned the home language, all communications to that contact are automatically translated when you send out messages. So it's pretty instant. It may take a few minutes, but it's not going to take days. You don't have to wait 1 to 2 days like you may have with other solutions that you may be used to. So that is definitely a plus. They receive it in their home language and you receive it back in English. So they can type in or speak actually in their home language and you'll receive it in English. So hopefully that answers your question. If you have a further question, you can enter it into the chat. I see number 2, can talking points be used by paras or school counselors? Absolutely. We have folks at like every role in every school using talking points for their specific use. So I've got classroom teachers, co-teachers, we've got school nurses, bus drivers, and they've just found what works best for them, using it to communicate with families. So whatever the best use is for you, find that and engage with families, because you are with their kid all day and you should be engaging with them. So absolutely. I see this question. At the elementary level, families generally are more engaged. Any tips for engaging families at the middle school or high school level? That's a great question. We actually saw, excuse me, we actually saw a quote, a story from a teacher last week who was a high school art teacher. And she said that she expected families not to really care, you know, because they are less engaged at the high school level. She expected her families not to really care like what they're working on in class, just to see the grades at the end of the quarter or whatever. But she thought, I'll give it a try. And she sent some photos of what they were working on, their art projects, through Talking Points. And the families were actually really excited to see their progress and really engaged via Talking Points. So I think you might actually be surprised at the engagement that you get that way, because they might not be expecting it. I think middle and high school families just may not know how to engage with educators once their child is a little bit older. And of course, older children can start taking more of an ownership of their education. And some of those high schoolers kind of have to, depending on their situation. That's totally understandable. But if you have that contact information for a family contact, give them a shout, like see what level of engagement they're willing to do. And it could be just like once a week or once every couple of weeks to check in and say like, hey, look at what so and so is working on. Or if, depending on what the goal is, attendance, academics, behavior, whatever it may be, positive or checking in to make sure we can bring up towards the goal, just reaching out to make sure there still is a connection. It may not be the level of elementary where it's every day we're making sure that everything's great. But just gauging it with each family to see what they're willing to do, because you might be surprised, like that teacher was at the high school last week. And look at our YouTube channel to see that story that I shared last week, because she was very surprised, and now she's communicating with them every week, I think. So the next one, 7 best. Oh, okay. So somebody was asking about crafting messages for families, because we saw that really good example about not just having the tool, having the solution, but writing the messages yourself and sending really good messages, because it does matter what's in the message, right? So we have this article, 7 best practices for writing for families. I'm putting it in the chat for you. So a lot of times if you have your Talking Points account, but you don't follow us on social and or in your Talking Points account, I'll show you here right now how to make sure that you are getting our newsletter. In your settings, go here to your name, settings, email updates. You can decide what type of emails you want to get from us. And once a month, just once a month at the end of the month, I'll send out a teacher newsletter that has whatever new updates that we have, like product updates, whatever features are new, all of our blog posts for the month, webinars that we've done. So it's like a bunch of best practice news, all of that stuff that could be super helpful to you. And it would be stuff like this, like 7 best practices for writing for families, very quick reads or videos, webinars. Sometimes those webinars give you PD credits that you can print off a certificate for. So it's really useful stuff. So go in here, see which things you think you would like to receive. You could choose, it's not all or nothing. So go into your account and check those off. That's a really helpful tool right there within your account. So let me stop that. Before we end, I want to share our challenge for this week. And if you watched last week, you know it because it's the same. We are still currently doing our 100 Days of Impact giveaway. So if you could use $100 and you have been using Talking Points this year, visit the link in the chat that Jocelyn's going to share, and just fill out the quick form, share us the story, how Talking Points and Universal Family Engagement has impacted your students positively in their attendance, academics, behavior, general family engagement, well-being, and just let us know what you've seen. And we will pick a random winner every Friday for the next 4 Fridays. So tomorrow's our second winner, and we would love for it to be you. So that is your challenge this week. And I think I have a couple more minutes if anybody else has any other questions. This Ask Me Anything has gone by so fast. Let's see. Oh, great question. And if you do win, I forget to say this every time. If you do win, the form does ask for your email address. So make sure it's one that you check, because if you win, I'll be sending you an email. The gift card will come through email, the $100. So you will get it that way. So make sure you enter, make sure you're following us on one of our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. So that is part of the giveaway. Oh, great question. Where can I find the Talking Points blog posts? We can put a link to our blog page, or you can go to the Talking Points website, talkingpts.org, and there is a button at the top that says blog. And you can search by topic if there's something that you specifically want to read about, like attendance or just research, something like that. Or you can just scroll through and see what interests you. We're frequently putting out new blog posts to share with you guys. There's the link right there in the chat from Jocelyn. So check out what we've put out recently. I believe the most recent blog post was about challenges and solutions. So a lot of the kind of barriers, the challenges that educators face day in, day out, regardless of kind of what your role is, and then fitting universal family engagement solutions and strategies specifically to each challenge. And it's based on a webinar that we did that was really engaging and really insightful. So it would be a great one to start with, honestly. So check that out, go to our blog page, and that kind of wraps us up. So hopefully you enjoyed today, and we did too. We will see you next Thursday. Oh, actually, next Thursday, no live stream. I'm out. But after that, we'll be talking about the importance of research. So there are a lot of solutions out there that don't share a lot of research, and we do. We share a lot of research. So we're going to talk about why research matters in 2 Thursdays. So thanks for joining us. We will see you later.